What if I told you that the future of the global economy may depend less on oil and more on obscure rocks buried underground? Lithium, copper, nickel, cobalt, rare earths. These are the minerals powering electric vehicles, AI infrastructure, batteries, defense systems, power grids, and renewable energy. Governments are calling them critical minerals, and right now the world is entering a full-scale geopolitical scramble to secure them. But here is the problem. The countries that desperately need these minerals often do not produce them. The countries that produce them increasingly want more control. China dominates much of the processing industry, and climate change is disrupting operations. The world wants a clean energy revolution, but it may be sleepwalking into a new era of resource conflict. Today we break down why the critical minerals boom may become one of the most political and strategically important stories of the next decade. Modern economies are becoming extraordinarily mineral-intensive. An electric vehicle requires far more mineral inputs than a traditional internal combustion engine car. Renewable energy systems require huge quantities of copper. Battery storage systems require lithium, nickel, cobalt, and graphite. Data centers and AI infrastructure need massive electrical expansion, which again means enormous copper demand. Defense systems also depend on rare earth elements. The International Energy Agency expects renewables to account for around 90% of electricity demand growth through to the end of this decade. The energy transition is no longer just about climate change. It is now about industrial power, national security, and technological dominance. Lithium demand alone could rise fivefold by the end of the next decade. Copper and nickel demand continue to explode. But here is the problem nobody talks about: China. The real power in this industry lies in processing, refining, and supply chain control. Beijing spent decades building control over critical mineral refining capacity. Today, China processes enormous shares of lithium, cobalt, graphite, and rare earths. Western governments want diversification, but markets still orbit Beijing. China can also influence prices aggressively to crush new competitors. Critical minerals are no longer treated as ordinary commodities. They are being treated like strategic military assets, and governments are intervening accordingly. The United States is subsidizing domestic mining projects. Europe is rewriting industrial policy. Japan and South Korea are expanding stockpiling programs. One administration subsidizes electric vehicles, the next cuts them. One country encourages investment, another blocks it on national security grounds. Now let's talk about resource nationalism. Mineral-rich countries want greater control, processing jobs, and more state revenue from their natural resources. Mexico tightened state control over lithium. Indonesia pushed into domestic nickel processing. African governments are demanding more local value creation. The industry needed for the energy transition is becoming vulnerable to climate disruption. Floods, droughts, and heat stress are operational risks. Environmental performance is becoming tied to financing access. Investors want detailed reporting on emissions, biodiversity, and water usage. The ocean floor contains massive quantities of minerals. Supporters argue deep-sea mining solves shortages, but environmental consequences are poorly understood. The world wants cheap, secure, and sustainable critical minerals simultaneously. It is unlikely to get all three. The next decade of mining may be defined by geopolitics. The future depends less on who has minerals and more on who controls systems. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe and let me know which mineral you think will become the most strategically important. Thank you for watching.